Diddy was just found not guilty. As soon as the verdict came in, I got a message. You can release it now. No name, no number. Just the green light to speak on what I saw years ago, before I knew who they were, before I understood the chain. Cassie was the one who called me, said they needed a male performer for a private bachelorette party. I should have said no. But $5 grand in cash just to be present sounded easy. It wasn't. Diddy was already there, silent in the corner, covered head to toe. Cassie did all the talking. And then something else appeared. A man in a flawless black suit standing perfectly still. No face, no head, just watching. She told me, it watches Diddy. Diddy watches her. She watches me. And now, you're watching too. This wasn't a party, it was a ritual. And once you notice it, it already noticed you. It was a Thursday afternoon when the call came in. I remember the light outside my window was that weird, grayish kind, the kind that doesn't know if it wants to rain or not. I hadn't been picking up unknown numbers in weeks, not since Philly, but something told me to answer this one. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was something else. The voice on the line was calm, almost too calm. A woman, smooth, director, a little amused. Do you have any male performers available tonight? She asked. For a bachelorette party? I almost said no. I really did. I wasn't taking many bookings then, not after what happened at the private shoot in Philly. I don't want to get into all that now, but let's just say when you find yourself in a room with 2 cameras, 5 masked guests, and no exit, you learn to screen your jobs better. Before I started doing this kind of work, I was just trying to survive like everybody else. Grew up in the Bronx. Mom was a nurse who worked double shifts. Pops dipped before I could speak. I played ball in high school, wide receiver. Had a scholarship for a minute too, but a torn ACL took care of that. After that, everything was hustles. Carpentry, personal training, some security work. The kind of gigs that keep your head above water, but never long enough to breathe. Then came the app, you know the one. I won't name it, but it's where you can sell a presence. Discreet companionship, clean cut, no strings. I told myself I was just helping people feel good, helping myself pay rent, 5-star ratings, word of mouth, referrals, high-paying private clients. Before I knew it, I was in a different tax bracket with no W-2. But the truth is, the better I got at being what they wanted, the more I lost track of who I was. That's what this job does. You smile when you're tired. You flirt when you're scared. You disappear for people who don't even ask your name. So yeah, I was tired. I was burned out, but I still picked up the phone because when you live off fast cash, you don't get to ignore $5 grand for 2 hours of light work. Yeah, I said, I got someone. You want full strip or just hosting? There was a pause. Presence, she said. We just need you to be present. I should have asked more questions, but she said the rate again. $5,000 cash, no taxes, no trail, and I was in. She texted me the address. The Bachelorette Hotel, Manhattan, penthouse, floor 46. If you've never been to the Bachelorette, let me put it like this. It's the kind of place where the silence is expensive, where people whisper instead of talk, where the chandeliers cost more than your student debt, red velvet chairs, crystal ashtrays no one uses, security that sees everything and says nothing. I wore my best fitted black suit, slim cologne sprayer, condoms, breath mints, backup cash in my sock, no bag, just what I needed to disappear if the vibe went south. The doorman didn't even blink when I gave him the suite number, like they'd been expecting me. He pointed me toward a private elevator in the far corner of the lobby. That's when the first weird thing happened. I stepped in, pressed 46, and the doors closed like normal. By floor 7, something shifted. Not in the building, in me. The elevator music cut off. The lights dimmed just slightly, subtle, like when a storm is about to roll in and the barometric pressure drops, but inside your chest. I checked my phone to text the woman that I was on my way up. No signal. Whatever. I waited. 8, 9, 10. The numbers kept ticking up, but slowly. Floor 20 felt like molasses. Floor 21 dragged like it forgot where it was going. By 33, I was sweating. Not nervous sweat. Not stage fright. This was chemical sweat. Like my body knew something my brain didn't. I looked up at the floor display. It blinked. Then, nothing. Just a blank screen where 34 should have been. I hit the open button. Nothing. Slammed the emergency button. Dead. That's when I saw the mirrors. Baccarat elevators are wall-to-wall mirrored glass. Normally, you don't notice. You're too busy checking your tie or making sure your cufflinks don't scream rented. But this time, my reflection looked wrong. Not warped or glitchy, just wrong. It was standing exactly like me, yeah. But the eyes were different. They weren't scared. They were smiling. And not like a pleasant smile, not charm. More like, I know what's coming and you don't. I took a step back. My reflection didn't. It stayed still, grinning. Then, ding. Floor 46. The doors opened like nothing had happened. I stepped out slowly. My knees felt light. My shoes suddenly too loud on the hallway floor. No music, no concierge desk, no hallway chatter, just rows of candles, dozens of them, lining a single hallway that led to a cracked open door at the very end. The smell hit me next. Not perfume, not weed, not cleaning supplies. Something older, thick, like old incense mixed with something sweet and rotting underneath. I stood there for a second, trying to steady my breath, but I couldn't shake the feeling that if I turned around, the elevator wouldn't be there anymore. So I followed the candles. The hallway swallowed sound. No echo from my steps. No hum from vents. Just flickering shadows and the kind of silence that feels like it's watching you. The suite door was wide open. Inside, shadows, silk, flickering light. The air felt heavier, but warm. Still but aware. And at the far end of the room, standing like she'd been waiting her whole life, was her. Same voice from the phone, same confidence, but her face, I knew it. Not from work, from somewhere else. TV, a music video, a backstage photo. It didn't make sense. She was the kind of beautiful you forget and remember at the same time. The kind that makes you feel nostalgic for something you never actually experienced. She smiled like I was right on time. "You made it," she said. "Yeah," I replied slowly. Elevator took a minute. "You came up the long way," she said. "They always do. The first time." I didn't even get the chance to ask what she meant, because behind her, just outside the flicker of the candlelight, I saw a figure in the corner, still, watching her. Not me. She closed the door behind me without touching it. I didn't hear a click, just a soft, final silence. The room looked like it had been designed for a seance. Velvet curtains drawn tight. Dozens of tall black candles arranged in circular patterns on the floor. Everything lit in flicker and shadow. I couldn't tell where the room ended. There were corners I couldn't quite see, like they'd been away from the rest of the geometry. And then there was her. She didn't move like a regular person. Her steps weren't heavy or cautious. They were smooth gliding almost, like the air got out of her way. She wore a long satin robe, deep burgundy with gold threading that looked like it belonged in another century. "You look nervous," she said, amused. "I'm not," I lied. "Just wasn't what I expected." "And what did you expect?" "A party, music, noise, other people." She smiled. "This isn't that kind of party." She circled behind me, running her hand lightly across my shoulder. It wasn't flirtatious. It was clinical, like she was assessing tension in an animal before surgery. "My husband prefers privacy," she said. "He doesn't like distractions." That's when I noticed the man in the corner. I hadn't seen him before. but I realized somehow he'd been there the whole time, perfectly still, tucked into the shadows between two high-backed chairs. At first I thought he was wearing a robe, but it wasn't that. It was something darker, thicker, a heavy garment that covered him from neck to toe. His face was mostly obscured. Only the eyes showed, and they were locked. Not on me, but on her. He didn't blink, didn't acknowledge me. "Is that him?" I asked. She nodded. "Don't worry about him. He only watches me." That line stuck in my head. Not he loves me or he protects me. He only watches me. I tried to keep my voice even. "So, what exactly are we doing tonight?" "You said perform. Just wanted to be clear what that means." She tilted her head like she was surprised by the question. "We're giving the room what it wants." "What does the room want?" She leaned closer, her face inches from mine. "To be fed." My stomach tightened. She walked to the center of the room where a circle of candles burned on the floor. As she moved, I could hear her robe whisper against the hardwood, like it was brushing against something just barely real. Then she turned back to me. Her eyes were darker now, or maybe it was the light. "Your body will move," she said. "My body will guide. And he," she nodded toward her husband, "will witness." Before I could respond, I felt something shift again. Not in the room, under it, like something ancient had just stirred beneath the floorboards. I stepped back instinctively. "Look, I'm gonna need a little more info before You agreed to be present," she said. "Not just in body, in focus." The hairs on the back of my neck rose. She raised one hand and pointed toward the far corner, another part of the room I hadn't noticed until now. There was someone else there, a fourth presence. It was standing completely still, almost blending into the shadows. At first I thought it was a tall guest, maybe a bodyguard or staff. But then I saw it. It wore a perfectly tailored black suit, crisp, clean, not a wrinkle, but where the head should have been, nothing. Just clean, empty space above the collar, like the neck had been erased. No blood, no stump, just absence. And it was facing the husband, not her, not me, him. She saw my face twist and smiled faintly. "I told you," she said. "He only watches what feeds him." My voice cracked. "What is that?" She took a long breath, like she was preparing to tell me something that might kill me if I really heard it. "He's not a man," she said softly. "He's not even a spirit, the way most people understand them. He's a hunger, an old one." Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "He doesn't want food, or prayer, or blood. He wants the part of you that tries to pretend you're not performing. The moment when you become what you think they want, that's when he eats." The husband started to hum softly, a single word under his breath, over and over. "Perform, perform, perform." I stepped back again. My legs felt weak. "This is insane," I muttered. "This is some eyes wide shut devil play shit. I'm not into this. I didn't sign up for this." "You signed up to be here," she said, her voice suddenly flat. "And once it sees you, you don't get to leave without feeding it." I didn't move, couldn't move. My brain was screaming at me to run, but my body wouldn't budge. I was frozen there, half inside the circle of candles, half in shadow, watching something that shouldn't exist just stand and watch back. The figure in the black suit had no head, no face, no presence in the traditional sense. But somehow it was the most present thing in the room, still as gravity, dressed like it was ready for court, standing in the corner, watching him. The husband, if that's what he really was, hadn't moved, still wrapped in that thick garment, face mostly hidden, still chanting softly, over and over, like he didn't need breath. "Perform, perform, perform." The woman stepped toward me again. Her robe brushed against the hardwood with a sound like paper over glass. She looked more regal now, taller. Her eyes no longer soft, they were hollow. and focused. "You're starting to feel it now," she said, voice low. "The pull." I swallowed. What is that thing?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she tilted her head like she was listening for something distant. Her face softened, almost lovingly, as she turned to look at the figure in the corner. "It's the witness," she said. "Witness to what?" "To everything." Her eyes met mine again. "He doesn't speak. He doesn't punish. He doesn't need to. He just watches." The air grew heavy, as if her words thickened it. "When people think of power," she continued, "they imagine fire, crowns, violence. But the oldest form of power isn't any of that. It's attention." She circled me like I was prey, and she was taking her time. "Attention makes gods. Attention fuels kings. Attention turns performers into saints." My voice came out weak. "And what does it do to me?" She stopped just inches from my face. "It feeds." I felt something shift behind me. Not a movement, more like the room itself exhaled. The candles flickered without wind. She leaned in. "You've given it more than you know." I tried to steady my voice. "I don't understand. Who are you people?" Her answer was almost kind. "You're asking the wrong question. What's the right one?" She stepped back, raised her arms gently, like a ballet conductor preparing to cue the final act. "The right question is, where do you stand in the chain?" She pointed across the room to the figure in the corner. "It watches him," she said, nodding to her husband, her hand lowered to her own chest. "He watches me." Then she turned her gaze to me. "And now, I watch you." The words struck deep, not loud, but undeniable, like a command that didn't need to be shouted. "It's like a snake," she whispered. "A perfect being. No legs to flee, no arms to reach, just pure motion, pure design. Cold, patient, hungry, coiled where no one sees it until it's too late." She moved her hand in the air, mimicking the curl of a serpent's body. "You think the danger is the bite." She shook her head. "But the real danger is the gaze. It doesn't need to chase you. You chase yourself, all the way into its mouth." Her smile was thin, dry, emotionless. "Snakes were born to watch, not to blink, not to judge, just to observe, until you forget that you're being watched." My chest was tight, my breath ragged. Some part of me knew, even then, that I wouldn't be the same after this. "You still don't get it," she said gently. "You think you're in a room." She stepped aside, revealing the full outline of the headless man again, taller now, somehow closer, but still motionless. "You're in a theater, and this is the performance." My throat burned. She took a final step forward, close enough for me to feel her breath against my cheek. This is how the chain stays fed. Then the chanting stopped. Dead silence. I turned toward the corner again, and this time I felt the weight of its attention. Not its eyes. It had none. But somehow, I knew it was looking at me. The woman crouched beside me, her voice inches from my ear. "Don't run," she whispered. "If you run before you feed it, it won't chase you. It'll follow you." That was the last thing I remember her saying, because in the next second, I ran. I didn't decide to. My body just moved. I bolted past the candles, past the headless man who didn't stop me, just watched, and I slammed open the door and ran full speed down the hallway. No elevator. I took the stairs, 46 flights, barefoot, slipping in my own sweat, lungs on fire, knees buckling by floor 20. I didn't care. I didn't stop. Not until the cold lobby air hit me like a wall. People stared. Hotel staff shouted. I didn't look back. I hit the sidewalk in nothing but socks and fear, and I kept running, down the block, past parked cars, into the blur of Manhattan. I didn't stop until I was blocks away. Then I collapsed, right there on the pavement, shaking, crying, staring at the lights above me, praying that the thing hadn't followed. That night broke me. I never went back to that line of work. never answered another anonymous call, changed my number, changed my name. But no matter what I did, I never stopped checking dark corners, especially the ones behind me. I'll never fully understand what happened in that room, but I know one thing now, with absolute certainty. The man in the corner wasn't protecting Diddy. He wasn't guarding the ritual. He was feeding from it. And Diddy, he wasn't the puppet master. He was the puppet, a marionette of wealth and charm and secrets designed to keep performing long enough to keep the thing in the suit full. That's why no one ever speaks his name. That's why every witness skips that part. That's why he walked free. Because you can accuse a man, but you can't accuse a shadow. And the man in the black suit, he's still watching. What really haunts me, though, is what came after. See, I didn't just follow the trial casually. I watched every second of it. Read every court document that leaked, every transcript, every alternate angle of every courtroom photo. And the more I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't a trial. It was a ritual, unfolding in front of the world. Every frame felt staged, every witness, every silence, every side-eye glance on camera. It was like watching a performance I'd already seen before, just under different lighting. And then there were the drawings. You know how courtrooms don't allow cameras sometimes, right? So sketch artists fill in the gaps. Every sketch looked exactly like what we all expected to see, except one. There was one image from a restricted feed, never meant to be published, never part of the official gallery. I only saw it because someone uploaded it anonymously in a private forum. It was Diddy, but he wasn't sitting, he wasn't standing, he was kneeling, dead center in the courtroom, alone, head bowed, hands clasped. People assumed he was praying. Some said it was humility, a rare moment of reflection. But the second I saw it, I knew. That posture wasn't for God, not the God most people believe in. Because those eyes that glared up from under his brow, they weren't soft, they weren't grateful, they were hungry. They were the same eyes I saw in the penthouse, the same eyes I see when I close mine at night. That photo disappeared within hours, scrubbed, flagged, removed for privacy, but not before I saved it. And then came the final blow, the exclusive leak, a hidden camera angle, grainy but real, recorded during the verdict, never broadcast. Diddy kneeling again, this time behind the defense table. Everyone's rising, but he's still kneeling, mouth moving, whispering something. Everyone else thought he was praying, thought it was a gesture of faith or relief. But I watched his lips, slowed the footage, enhanced it. He wasn't praying to God. He was thanking something that got him out, something older than any court, something darker than glory. And when he finally stood up, the whole room seemed to breathe differently. The jury looked hollow. The judge looked pale. The cameras panned just wide enough to miss his eyes. But I saw them, the same eyes from the ritual, the same void-burning gaze I ran from. And in that moment, I understood. The world hadn't watched justice. The world had just watched a demon win. He didn't walk free because he was innocent. He walked free because it wanted him free, because he had performed well, and because we watched. We fed it with every click, every view, every headline. We watched, and he watched back.